let's continue the percentage part where we left. Now here 25% of 40% of 800, what will be the value? So previously we have done this initial only one percentage calculation, that is 40% of 800. That means something like this, 40% of 800. And how did we do this 40% of 800? So we used to take here 800 into 40 by 100. So which used to give us 8 times and 8 for 32, so 320. Now here we have two percentage, that is one is 25%, the other one is 40%. Now 25% of 40% of 800. So in this case what we do is, we will take 800 and then 40% of it and then 25% of it, that's 25 by 100. So what it comes, this gets cancelled 8 times here, and this is 4 times, and with this is 10 times. So I get 8 into 10, that is 80. So the 25% of 40% of 800. So that can be simply done 800 into 40 by 100 into 25 by 100. But something else we are expected to know from here. What does it mean 25% of 40%? That means I will take the 40% of a number and I will calculate 25% of it. In other words, 25% of 40%, which is equal to 40 into 25% of it, that is 25 by 100, and it gets cancelled 4 times and it gets cancelled 10 times, which is equal to 10%. So I can replace this 25% of 40% by 10%. So if I know this part, then I can directly find out 10% of 800 grams. And what is 10% of 800 grams? Let's work out here. That's 800 into 10 by 100, and that gets cancelled 8 times, and 8 into 10, that is 80. So in either case I am getting the same value. So here you are expected to deal with the 2%, and that equals to a single percentage. And what is that? Let's take the next question. For example, what is 50% of 30% of 4000? So two way. The first method, I can take 4000 into 4000's 30%. So I will make this as 30 by 100, and this 30%'s 50%, that I will make it as 50 by 100, and by solving this I get the value of 50% of 30% of 4000. Let's do it. Now this zeros gets cancelled, and this 2 zeros gets cancelled over here, then 5 3 15, and 15 4 is 60. So 60 followed by one more 0, that's 600 is the value. But as I said in the previous question, we are expected to know what is 50% of 30%. So I will take 30% into 50 by 100, which is equal to, this gets cancelled 2 times, so which is equal to 15%. That means in other words, 15% of 4000. So let's calculate 15% of 4000 and check whether we get a previous answer, that's 600 or not. So 4000 into 15 by 100. So again 2 zeros gets cancelled over here, and 15 4 is 60, and followed by 1 0. We are getting the same value. Okay. So one more example, and with this we'll conclude this 2% operation. Now what is 2/5 of 65% of 3000? So the general method, method 1, I will take 3000 here, and 3065%, that is 65 by 100, 65 by 100, and this 65 by 100, so what part? 2/5. So I will take 2/5 of this, 2 by 5, so which comes, that's 13 with 5, 13 times, and this zeros gets cancelled, and 13 to 20, 3 to 6 and 78, followed by 1 0. So I get 780 here. Now the same thing in other way. What is 2/5 of 65%? So I can operate this part, 2/5 of 65%, that equals to 65 into 2 by 5. It gets cancelled 13 times, and 13 into 2 is 26%. In other words, I need to find out 26% of 3000. That is 3000 into 26 by 100, or you can write it as 3000 into 26% can also be written as 0.26. So let's do this. The two zeros gets cancelled, and 26 2 times is 78, and followed by 1 0, so that is 780. So either way, depending on your convenient, you can follow the first approach or in second approach also. So let's get into the other part, like percentage increase and percentage decreased. Now what we deal in this section. Now A's salary is rupees 20,000 and it is decreased by 20%. Find the increased by 20%. Find the increased salary. Now often we get this kind of situations where a certain number is increased by a certain percentage or decreased by a certain percentage, and then sometimes we do get the application of this is very important for the percentage chapter. So let's begin. So there is two way I can approach this question. The one way is as 20,000 is there, the present salary. I will calculate the 20% of that, and that increased part will be added to 20,000. Let's see this. What is 20% of 20,000? So 20,000 into 20 by 100, so which comes as 4,000. So this much salary is increased. Now what I do? I will add this 4,000 to his original salary. That means my required number is 20,000 plus 4,000, which is equal to 24,000. This is the increased salary. So what I need to find out? Find out the increased salary, and I can say the increased salary is 24,000. There is another way, the percentage approach, and that percentage approach is if any number increases by a certain percentage, that percentage has to be added to 100. For example, the initial value of any number is 100%, and as in this case the initial salary, which is 20,000, that is 100%, as it is increased by 20%. So what I do is 100 plus 20, it's become 120%. Now if I calculate 120% of 20,000, then that will be the required number. For example, that's 20,000 into 120 by 100. So I cancel these two zeros, and 12 into 2 is 24. So here I get 24 followed by 3 zeros. So 24,000. In the previous case also you have seen it's 24,000. Now take another example, but before that you are expected to know this relation, that initial value of any number is always 100% in terms of percentage, right? For something like what was your initial height? The height is increased by 20%. Now initial height will be 100. What was your initial weight? when your weight is decreased by 10%. So in terms of percentage, the initial weight was 100%. Similarly, any value, whether it's in population of a country or whether it's a salary of a person, anything, its initial value is always 100%. Now, if it increases by 10%, how much it will become? So 100 plus 10, it's become 110%. You can see on the screen. Similarly, if a number is increased by 20%, how much it will become? Now it will become 120% of the original value. Similarly, a number is decreased by 10%. How much its value? Now its value is become 90% of the original value, that is 100 minus 10, 90%. Similarly, if a number is decreased by 20%, then 100 minus 20, it's become 80% of its original value. So this relation you are expected to know, so that if I know that a number is increased by 2%, that means it is what percentage of the original number? 100 plus 2, that's 102% of the original number. So if I take the reverse, a number is decreased by 2%, it's become what percentage of the original number? So 100 minus 2, that's 98% of the original number. Okay, so let's move on. How do we apply this? The same question now I take, that a salary is 20,000 and it is increased by 20%. Find the increased salary. Now if I follow this second method, as the increased salary is 20%, then increased salary will be 100 plus 20, it's become 120%, which we did with the second method. Let's do it very quickly here. So that's 20,000 into 120 by 100. So as I cancel these zeros, and 12 to 24 followed by 3 zeros. So usually we follow this method, but wherever it is convenient to calculate a separate percentage, that is 20% or 25%, and then add it to original value, that can be done depending on the what kind of figure we are dealing with. Let's take this example. A salary is 20,000. It is decreased by 20%. Find the decreased salary. Now there is two ways again. The first method is a very straight method, that I will calculate 20% of 20,000, which is, that's what we have done in the previous case, 20,000 into 20 by 100, which gives us 4,000. That means the salary is decreased by 4,000. Now as it is decreased by 4,000, so 20,000 minus 4,000. 20,000 minus 4,000. So how much it will become? 16,000. So the decreased salary is 16,000. If I follow the one which we have seen in the data here, second method, that is, as it is decreased by 20%, so 100 minus 20, it's become 80%. So I will directly calculate the 80% of 20,000. So this 20,000 into 80 by 100. So I just cancel these two zeros, and with 8 to 16, and followed by how many zeros are there? 3 zeros are there. So it's a 16,000. In both the cases we get the same result. So this is what you are expected to know about the percentage increase or the percentage decrease, and I'll take some examples over here. That 200 decreased by 25%. So if a number decreases by 25%, then it is become 75% of the original value. That's how do I get 75%? 100 minus 25, which is 75% of the original value. So to get the decreased value, what I can do, I will directly calculate 75%. Let's work out here the third one. That's 200 into 0.75, or you can write down as we have previously writing 200 into 75 by 100. In either case this gets cancelled 2 times, and 75 into 2 is 150. Let's work out the fourth one. 250 is the original value. Now it is increased by 40%. Now if it increases by 40%, that means the increased value will be 100 plus 40, 140%. So let's take 250 into 140 by 100. Now as I can say, with 50 it gets cancelled 2 times, with 50 it gets cancelled 50 times, 5 times with 50, and this gets cancelled 70 times. So 7 5 35, that means 350 is the end result, or the increased value. Is it increased? Yes, increased value. Similarly, fifth one, 600 decreased by 16.67. Now what is the difference between the previous percentage and here? In the previous percentage it was 40%, so I can easily add 40 to 100 or subtract 40 to 100. The same thing I can do with 16.67. But what happens, from 100, if you take out 16.67, you will be left with 83.33%. And you are expected to know what is a fraction of 83.33%. Or in case of increase, that's 100 plus 16.67, that comes 116.67, and you are expected to know what is the fraction of 116.67. Instead, if you are aware of this 16.67 fraction value is 1 by 6, which we have seen in our previous video, then instead of 16.67 I will be using 1 by 6. So let's take 1 by 6 of 600. So there is two way again. I will calculate 1/6 of 600, and that is 600 into 1 by 6, which is equal to 100. So take 100. Now the value is decreased by 100. Now what will be the new value? The new value will be 600 minus 100, which is equal to 500. This is one way of dealing it. Now the second way of dealing the same is, as the number is decreased by 1/6, then what will be the leftover value? Leftover value will be 1 minus 1 by 6, which is 5 by 6 of the original value. And what is the original value? The original value is 600. So let's take 600 into 5 by 6. So it gets cancelled 100 times, and 100 into 5, that is 500. So did I get the same value? Yes. So through this example I just wanted to explain you that if you get a percentage of which the fraction part you know, and that is not a round figure, something like 25% or 20%, it's not a round. So in that case you can operate this with a fraction. Let's take one more example, like sixth one. What is said here? 2400 increased by 8.33%. Now what is the fraction of 8.33? If you remember, in our previous class we have discussed this. So 8.33, that is equal to 1 by 12. So what I do is I will replace 8.33 by 1 by 12. Now 2400, first method, 2400, and I will take 1/12 of it, and 1/12 of it is nothing but 200, and the number is decreased by 1/12 or increased by 1/12. Now I can see it is increased by 1/12. So when it is increased by 1/12, then the increased value will be, that's 2400 plus 200, which is equal to 2600. What is the second way of doing it? Whenever I take a fraction, in place of percentage, when I take fraction, the total will always be 1. Now let me repeat this here. If I deal with 25%, then total will always be 100. If I deal with its fraction, which is 1 by 4, then total will be 1. So this part we are expected to remember. So if I am dealing with 25%, then total will be 100. Suppose a number is increased by 25%. So in terms of percentage, it is 100 plus 25, it's become 125%. But when it comes to fraction, so if a number is increased by 1/4, in that case 1 plus 1 by 4, which is 5/4 of the original value. So same thing we are going to do here. As the number is increased by 1/12, what is the increased value? So in terms of fraction, 1 plus 1 by 12. Why I am taking 1? Whenever I take a fraction like 1 by 12, I need to take the total as 1. So 1 plus 1 by 12 is nothing but 13 by 12. Now I take the 13 by 12 of 2400. So let's do it. 2400 into 13 by 12. With 12 it gets cancelled 200 times, and 200 into 13 is nothing but 2600. So I get the same thing what I did with the first method. So here is the case when we are discussing a percentage increase or percentage decrease. Sometimes the percentage increase or decrease could be in the round figure, something like 25% or 40% in the first two examples, or sometimes it could be in the decimal format, which I will convert in fraction, and we deal with the fraction either with the first method or with the second method. So next, a number when increased by 20% is become 240. Find the original number. So previously we used to have the original number, then it is increased by 20%. Find out the increased number. Now we are dealing in a reverse order. A number x when increased by 20%, it is become 240. What is x? So let's do it. The original number I will consider that x. So if this is x, as it is increased by 20%, it will become 120%. So 120 by 100, which is equal to 240. Then what is x? So obviously it gets cancelled 2 times, and 2 into 100 is 200. So x is equal to 200. This is one way. The second way of doing it is, and that is important to know, because while we are dealing with the profit and loss, so we have infrequent uses of the concept which we are discussing now. Now a number when increased by 20%, then what percentage it is become when compared to original number? The original number will always be 100. As it is increased by 20%, it is become 120%. So this 240 is 120%. Now if 120% is 240, what is the number? That means what is 100%? So let's do it in an equation format. If 120% is equal to 240, then what is 100%? And that 100% is into 100 by 120, and it gets cancelled 2 times. 2 into 100, which is 200. This is your result. Similarly, we picked a few more examples. Look at this. A number when decreased by 25% is become 450. Find the original number. Find the initial number. Okay. So I will deal with both the methods. First method is the original number. If x, then what happens? As it is decreased by 25%, that means 100 minus 25, it is become 75%. So x into 75 by 100, which is equal to 450. Now what is x? So with 75 I can cancel this. With 15, 5 and 15, 3, 30 is 6 times. Fine. So 6 into 100, which is equal to 600. So x is equal to 600. What is the second method? We will not take this variable x. So in that case, when a number is decreased by 25%, it has become 75%. That means that's 450. 450 is 75%. So if 450 is 75%, then what is original number? That means what is 100%? So let's consider this. That's 75% is equal to 450. Then what is 100%? So into 100 by 75, and we have seen that this gets cancelled 6 times. 6 5 30 and 6 7 42 plus 3 45. So 6 into 100, which is equal to 600. So usually we do not follow the first method, we follow the second method. Okay, let's consider this question. A number when increased by 2 by 3% becomes 777. Find out the original number. So here you might have observed that 2 by 3%. It's not a round figure like 20%, 25% or 30%. So we must be knowing the fraction value of it, which is 1 by 6. So how do we approach this? We know that if a number increases by 1 by 6, the original value, whenever I take the fraction 1 by 6, the original value will be 1. So it's become 1 plus 1 by 6, which is equal to 7 by 6. Now, if the original value is x, so 7 by 6 of x is equal to 777. Then what is x? That's, it gets cancelled 1, 1, 1 and multiplied by 6, which is 666. This is the value. Okay. So the point here is, when you are dealing with a percentage 20% or 30%, so add 200 or subtract 200. But when you are dealing with a fraction like 1 by 6 here, so add from 1 or subtract from 1, depending on whether you are increasing the number or decreasing the number. Let's move on next. Now if numerator of a fraction is increased by 20% and the denominator is decreased by 10%, the fraction is become 5 by 6. Find the original fraction. So one question in bank, definitely you get this kind of questions. So I do not know what that original fraction is. What we do is, I will take that original fraction as x by y, and it is in which the x is numerator and y is denominator. We are aware of it. Now numerator of a fraction is increased by 20%, and we know that when a number increases by 20%, it's become 100 plus 20, 120%. So 120% of x by, what about denominator? Denominator is decreased by 10%. So if a number decreases by 10%, 100 minus 10, it's become 90%. So I will take 90% of the denominator, which is y. So 90% of y, and it's become 5 by 6. Okay, so write down this as 5 by 6. Now in other word, this is nothing but 120x by 90y is equal to 5 by 6. So what will be x by y? So x by y is equal to 5 by 6 into 90 by 120. Now by cancelling this, I get the fraction value of x by y, and that is the value of fraction. Let's do it with 33 times, with 34 times here, and with 3 this gets cancelled 2 times here. So I can see in numerator I left with 5 and in denominator I left with 8. So the fraction is, original fraction is 5 by 8. Okay. Now other part, 2 effects. Something like a number first increased by 10%, then increased by 20%. What is its overall effect? So these falls under 2 effect. Let's begin here. A number is increased by 10% and again increased by 20%. Find out his overall increased percentage. So here I will consider that original number is 100, and if it is increased by 10%, then it's become 110% of the original number. So take 110 by 100. Then what happens? Again it is increased by 20%. So when a number increases by 20%, it's become 100 plus 20, 120%. So it's a 120 by 100. So it will give the overall value. The 100 is become. That means initial value was 100. Now let's find out the end value. This 100 gets cancelled. These two zeros gets cancelled. And 12 into 11, that comes 132. What was the initial value? 100. What is the end value? 132. What's the increase from the initial value to end value? 32 increase. 32 increase over 100. Therefore, 32 itself is a percentage. So there is an increase of 32%. This is one approach. Okay. Now the second approach is a formula approach. And in a formula it says that, you can see the formula in the here, that if there are two effects, first effect is X% and second effect is Y%, then net effect will be X plus Y plus XY by 100%. That means what is X% here? The first effect 10%, second effect 20%. What will be the net effect? So I will apply the formula. Here 10 is X and 20 is Y. So X plus Y plus XY by 100. So 10 plus 20 plus 10 into 20, which is 200, and 200 by 100. So which is 10 plus 20 plus 2, in other words it's a 32. So overall increase is 32%. In the previous question also you might have seen that we got a 32% increase. Now here in the second method also we are getting the same thing. So if I have to find out two effects are given and what is the end effect or the net effect, I will directly apply the formula and work out the overall result. Okay. Now look at the three situations where the first effect is 20% increase, second effect is 30% increase. What is overall increase percentage? Now the second case where first effect 20% increase and second effect 30% decrease. What is overall effect? Similarly, the first effect 20% decrease, then second effect 30% decrease. What is overall effect? Let's go with one by one. The first one 20% plus 20 plus 30 and plus 20 into 30, that is 600, and 600 by 100. So which gives us that's 20 plus 30 plus 6, which is equal to 56. So 56%. So the increase, if number is first increased by 20% and then increased by 30%, now it overall increases 56%. Similarly the second one, a number first increased by 20%, then decreased by 30%. What is the net effect? So I will go with the formula here again. So first effect is 20 increased, second effect is 30 decreased, so minus 30, and here I need to take care of the sign. I will go with plus if both the sides here it's plus, so plus into plus is plus, but here one number is in plus, the other number is in minus, so plus into minus is become minus, so I need to write down minus here, and minus 20 into 30, that is 600, and 600 by 100, the remaining process is same, which gives us that's 20 minus 30 minus 6, which is equal to 20 minus 36, which is equal to minus 16. So if a number is first increased by 20%, then decreased by 30%, then the overall the number decreases, and that is by 16%. Here the number increased by 56%. Okay, the third one. Now third one, you can see the number is first decreased by 20% and then decreased by 30%. Then what is the overall percentage decreased? It's not minus 20 minus 30 is equal to minus 50. So we go with the formula again, and which says minus 20, because the first decrease is 20%, minus 30, and minus minus is become plus. As I said in the previous question, we need to take care of the sign. So here minus 20 into minus 30. So minus minus will become plus. And 600 by 100, I am directly taking it as 6. So I just put the number here. This is 1, this is 2, and this 3. So minus 20 minus 30 plus 6, which is equal to minus 50 plus 6 is equal to minus 44. That means the number is decreased by 44%. Sometimes it happens that the shopkeeper is already giving 20% discount, and let's assume that there is some special occasion, whether it's a new year or some festival, and he offers another 30%. So what do you assume if you do not know this calculation? Then 20% discount and then another 30% discount on that. We think 20 plus 30 is 50%, but that's not 50% discount. Then you can see that overall his discount is 44%. Okay. Fine, let's move on the next part. What if the percentage effect is more than 2? In case of 2, I said the formula x plus y plus xy by 100. If more than 2, then I have to go with the general approach. That is, look at the example. A number increased by 10% and 20% and followed by 30%. What is the overall effect? So I will take the initial value as 100 into, when it increases by 10%, it's become 110 by 100. And when again it increases by 20%, it is become 120 by 100. Now again it increases by 30%, so it's become 130 by 100. And by solving this, I get the overall value. With that end value, when I compare with the initial value 100, then I will get the percentage change. So let's do it. This 100 gets cancelled, and then there are 3 zeros are there. Cancel these 3 zeros here. 2 0 plus 1 more 0. Now my answer is 11 into 12 into 13 divided by 10. Let's see what comes here. 12 into 13, that is 156. 156 into 11, that gives us 6, and 6 5 11, carry 1, and 6 and 1 7, and 1, and decimal comes over here. That means the end result is 171.6. What was my initial value? 100. What's the end value? 171.6. So how much is the increase? The increase is 171.6 minus 100, which is equal to 71.6. I request not to write down all the things which I am writing. I am writing it for the explanation point of view. But once you understand that I am taking a difference between 100 and 171.6, so you understood that the difference is nothing but 71.6. So directly do it. Now, so 71.6% increased. So what is overall increase? The overall increase is 71.6. So this is a way to do if we have more than 2 percentage effect. It could be either all are increased or all are decreased, or some are increased and some are decreased. Can some of my student asked that, can we do this question with the formula approach? So I say we can do it, but it is easier to go with this method, the one which we have done, than the formula approach. But if at all you wanted to know that how it can be applied in a formula, then look at this one. Second way. Now the first I will pick up the 2%. That is 10% increase and 20% increase. And I will make it a single percentage increase. That is x plus y plus xy by 100. That means 10 plus 20 plus 10 into 20 by 100, which is 2, which is equal to 32%. Now I will consider this 32% as x, and the third one, that is 30%, as a y. This I will consider as y. Then again I will apply the same formula, that's x plus y plus xy by 100. That means now x is 32. So 32 plus y is 30 plus 32 into 30 by 100, and which comes, that's 0, 6, 3 to 6 and 3, 3, 9, and decimal will come over here. Now that gives us 62 plus 9, 71, so 71.6. So you can do it, but you have to apply this xy formula 2 times. One for taking 10% and 20% and convert in single value, and that value become x, and the second take that as x and then this as y, and apply the same formula second time. Okay, fine, let's move forward. Few basic questions we will discuss on whatever percentage increase or percentage decrease we discussed till now. Now let's take in question. Price of cinema hall ticket is increased by 25%. As a result, the ticket sales decreased by 10%. Find the effect, net effect on revenue. Now what happens? There are 3 components here. One is the price, second is the sales of a ticket, and the third is revenue. Now if cinema hall ticket price increases, the revenue will increase. Similarly, if the sales of cinema hall increases, then again the revenue will increase. So both will have an effect of revenue. So here it's price and sales and revenue. Now if the price is increased and suppose the sales is also increased, then obviously revenue will increase. Let's take another case. If a price is decreased and the sales also decreased, then revenue will also decrease. Now if the price of cinema hall ticket has increased and as a result the sales of ticket has decreased, then it depends on how much price you have increased per ticket and how much sales has decreased. That decide whether your revenue has increased or your revenue has decreased. So this is a question like this. Here it says the cinema hall ticket price is increased by 25%. Let's take 25% increase, whereas sales decreased by 10%, so minus 10%. So what will be overall effect on revenue? There are 2 effects. X is one effect, Y is another effect, and both the effects are on revenue. So I can apply the XY formula here. That is 25 minus 10 minus 25 into 10 by 100, that is 250 by 100, which is 2.5. So that is 25 minus 12.5, which will give us 12.5%. That means the revenue must have increased by 12.5%. Okay. Now the next question. The length of rectangle decreased by 15% and breadth is increased by 20%. What happens in a rectangle? We know the area formula. Find the percentage effect of in area. Now what is the area of rectangle? The area of rectangle is equal to length into breadth. That means if you change length, your area will be affected. Any change in length will affect the area. Any change in breadth will affect the area. And if you are changing both, so there will be 2 effect on area. So in this case what happens? The length is decreased by 15%. This L is decreased by 15%. And what about breadth? So breadth has increased by 20%. This one. it is increased by 20%. So the area will have two effects, minus 15 plus 20. So here I can apply the XY formula, that is minus 15 plus 20 minus, because minus into plus is minus, and 20 into 15, that's 300, 300 by 100, which is equal to 3. So it's become minus 18 plus 20, which is equal to 2. So the area is increased or decreased, as I left with the plus sign, therefore the area is increased by 2%. Okay. Next one, the price of sugar is increased by 30%, thereby consumption is decreased by 20%. Find the percentage effect on expenditure. Now how these three are connected, price, consumption and expenditure? Then again, price into consumption is equal to expenditure. Suppose I purchase 100, price is 100 rupees per kg, and my consumption is 100 kg. So what will be the expenditure? So 100 into 100, that gives us 10,000. So that's how these three are interconnected. So any effect on price will give the effect on expenditure. Simultaneously, if any expenditure on consumption, any change in consumption will affect the expenditure. So this question is something like that. Now, price of sugar is increased by 30%. This price increased by 30%, and consumption is decreased by 20%. This consumption 20% decrease. What is the net effect on expenditure? So apply the XY formula here. That's 30 minus 20 plus minus minus, that's 600 by 100. 30 into 20 is 600 by 100, which is 6. So 30 minus 26, which is equal to 4. So the expenditure is increased by, plus here, expenditure is increased by 4%. Hope this is clear. Let's move on to next. An employee salary is first increased by 30% and then decreased by 30% and is become 27,300. Find his original salary. Okay, before I answer this question, what happens if employee salary is first increased by 30% and then decreased by 30%? Some of the students in the class, they say that there will be no effect on the salary. Salary will remain same. Is it so? No. Why? Let's apply that formula. That's plus 30 minus 30 plus minus minus 30 into 30, which is 900 by 100, which is 9. So I cancel this plus 30 minus 30 and finally I left with a minus 9. That means the salary is decreased by 9%. Okay. So let's begin here this question. It's what percentage decrease? I'll assume that initial salary is X. Now when it is decreased by 30%, increased by 30%, it's become 130 by 100. And second time when it is decreased by 30%, then 100 minus 30, that is 70, and 70 by 100, which is equal to the given value of the salary, that's 27,300. By solving this, I get the X value, which will be the original salary. That is asked that what is his original salary. What is the second approach? The second approach is the formula approach. Okay, before that, shall we solve this one? This 0 gets cancelled with 7, this number 7,321 and 7,963 followed by 2 zeros, and then this 0 gets cancelled here, and with 13 3 times, so 30. So 30 into followed by 4 zeros, so that gives us 30,000. So original salary is 30,000. Same thing can be done with the XY formula, because I can see there are two effects. So let's work out. First, the salary is increased by 30%, then decreased by 30%. So the net effect will be plus 30 minus 30 plus minus minus 30 into 30, that is 900. 900 by 100, which is 9. So I will cancel this one. Final net result is the salary is decreased by 9%. Now when the salary is decreased by 9%, then what percentage is left? That is 100 minus 9. Why I am taking 100? Because original salary will always be 100%. So 100 minus 9, that is 91%. No. So whatever leftover salary is, that is 91%. And that salary here given in the question is 27,300. That is 91%. Okay, this is 91%. You are asked to find out the original salary, and that original salary is always 100%. So when I know 91%, I can always find out how much is 100%. Let's begin that. That is, if 91% is equal to 27,300, then what is 100%? So into 100 by 91, and I can see this gets cancelled 300 times, so 300 into 100, which is equal to 30,000. So this is your original salary. Now in the first case we have gone with the variable approach, and the second case we applied the XY formula. But please remember that we could apply the XY formula because only 2 effect is there. Had it been 3 effect, then we are forced to go with first approach. Let's move on next one. Side of a square is increased by 15%. By what percentage area will increase? Okay. Now we know that square where all the sides are equal, the area is equal to a square, where a is the side of the square. Okay. Now if you make any change in a, that will affect 2 times on area, because area is equal to, as I wrote it, a square, that is a into a. So this a changes will affect the area, and the a changes will again affect the area. So the area will be affected 2 times. So what I do? What percentage increase in area? That is 15% 2 times. That is plus 15 and plus 15 into 15, that is 225 by 100, which is equal to, this is 30, 15 plus 2.25, which is equal to 32.25%. So the area will increase by 32.25%. Let's take one more example. That is, radius of a circle is decreased by 20%. Find the percentage decrease in its area. Now again, when you talk about the radius of a circle, let's assume that this is a radius r. So what is the area of a circle formula? So area is equal to pi r square. Now r square means it is again r into r. So r comes 2 times. Let me write down here, r into r. So r comes 2 times. So if you make any change in r, that will affect on area 2 times. This r will affect on area, and again there is an effect on r. Therefore the second time it will affect on area. So there will be 2 effect of 20% on area. Now if 20% is decreased, then minus 20 minus plus 20 into 20, that is 400 by 100, which is equal to minus 20 plus 4, which is equal to minus 36. So area will decrease by 36%. So this is all about the two effect. First is percentage increase and percentage decrease, and when the percentage is increased or decreased 2 times or sometimes more than that. So we discuss the fundamental on it and few basic question where we can apply what we learn. And in the next video we will learn a few more things like comparing the two numbers in percentage and all. And thank you for watching this video.